Oh,
We're live.
it did go. There we go. Sweet. Hello and welcome to episode 21 of the Restoring Human podcast, where we believe humans were designed to flourish. Unfortunately, many modern conveniences have prevented us from thriving, but through intentional lifestyle decisions, we can return to an optimal state of health. I'm your host, Jarek Bakken.
Dr. Alex Reguello.
And we definitely need to start by getting an explanation of what you really are eating over there.
This is what I call paste.
Paste. I asked him if it was peanut butter soup.
This is what it looks like.
What's in paste?
Literally just a bunch of fat and protein. It's got grass-fed butter, coconut oil, coconut butter, coconut milk, cream. I threw some cream cheese in there today.
Ooh.
Typically do almond butter, but didn't have any, so we had some peanut butter, so that's why it looks peanut butter-ish. And some whey protein for sweetener, mainly. Like, I didn't necessarily care about the protein, but it's just an added plus.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't want to eat a bunch of oil and butter. And then threw some chocolate chips in there.
So there's something in there that might throw a red flag for some people. You have cream cheese in there.
Yeah.
How would you respond to people who are caught off guard by that?
Well, I guess that would depend on why they're caught off guard. What are they concerned about?
Oh, just dairy in general, I think, probably.
Yeah. Well, I have found that I do fine with dairy.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem. I haven't found a problem with really any dairy that is from a good source.
Sure.
So that is, I think, Organic Valley it's called. So coming from a pasture-raised animal, totally organic, so they're not fed anything that's chemicalized.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it's still going to be some pasteurization and that type of stuff in it.
Right.
But it's just, the full fat. So that's what I was looking for. It's something that's heavy in fat, and cream cheese is definitely that. So that's why I threw it in there.
Cool.
We tend to make what are called fat bombs out of that. So we'll just put cream cheese with some other things and just make little balls out of them, throw them in the freezer. Then it's just an easy snack of a way of, especially if I'm trying to do any sort of ketogenic type diet, that's what I do.
Sure.
Just to get it, because it's hard to eat that much fat unless you're doing things like that. So.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you are limited in variety if you're avoiding certain things. So.
Yep.
I guess before we go off of that, so really with the cream cheese, so some people are definitely more intolerant to any type of dairy, regardless of the quality. But so the only thing that really, like you said, it is pasteurized. So essentially the only downfall there is you're lacking a little bit of the bacteria that's beneficial stuff that's killed off in the heating process.
Well, that in when you heat up something like that, it's going to somewhat denature some proteins and destroy some of the nutrients that are in it as well. So,
sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would prefer that it wasn't like that, but I don't know enough about cream cheese. Maybe you can't. I don't know if you can make cream cheese without it.
Is there such a thing as raw cream cheese?
There probably is, but I've never had it. So
there you go. There's your fun facts for the day. Cool. So. Hold on, excuse me. We
did his 1 time a month workout.
1 time a month, yeah. We had a little bit of a breather this morning. My body hates all dairy, Maddie says. Yeah, we've got one of those in our family, so we don't. Occasionally we'll have some stuff around, but we've got one that we definitely have to avoid it with. So it's just kind of like we all typically avoid it.
Yeah, that sucks. I feel for the people that can't eat dairy, but
cool. So here's where we're headed today. Alex only has a very, very limited understanding of where we're going. I thought it would be a great idea today for us, but me specifically, to kind of open up and share a little bit about a little health issue that I've got going on, and like to give you kind of some real-time, super contextual stuff to learn from, kind of see, what it is that I'm dealing with that I'm sure a lot of you guys have probably been in similar situations, and then kind of see what the doc has to say about it. So,
cool.
Requires a little bit of context. Hey, Maddie, are you still there? If you're still there, you should let me know if this is sounding okay, because I've got a weird thing going on my computer here, but you should confirm that it sounds all right on there, because if you can hear it good, we're solid. Anyway, message us back if you're still sitting there watching. Okay, requires a little context. So this isn't going to make any sense for a little bit, but it will come in. A couple years ago, Maddie says all good. Wonderful. That's what I wanted to hear. A couple years ago, currently have 3 kids. Had our first kid, and I've kind of said how right when we had my oldest daughter, that was when we started to, I started working out, got introduced to CrossFit, got introduced to paleo, and that's kind of like the starting point of when things started to change. And it's been pretty progressive since then. After our first daughter was born, between her and my son, my wife miscarried. And from basically that point, so like somewhat, like I said, this might not make a lot of sense until I kind of get to the point here. That was probably like I can probably say that's one of the lowest moments of my life. And so from that and kind of the fall off from that and how that kind of affected our then relationship, walking out of that, getting pregnant then after that, and the worry and everything that happened there, it was like a solid 6 to 8 months of really just a high stress environment, and just kind of daily living with a higher stress level, and just things not going well, and so kind of this culmination point happened when looking at it now, it sounds extremely silly. I mean, kind of legitimate, but I had my camera bag was stolen out of my car one night, and it was a bigger deal because I had another guy's stuff in there, and I had to replace that for him and do all this stuff. It all worked out in the end, but it was just in that moment, I had this major reaction to this thing that's it was a bad thing, it's crappy, but it's insurance covered it. Wasn't a big deal, wasn't this huge hit, but it affected me way more than it should have. My response was not tracking, was not in line with what actually happened. So I was this is weird. And so it kind of pushed me into a deeper state of self-awareness, I guess, and realizing that I'd probably been to one degree or another pretty depressed for quite a while, and didn't really realize it. And so at that point, kind of dug through some stuff and realized that this is probably something I've dealt with a number of times and just never really recognized it, and gained a decent amount of clarity there. So fast forward like I said, basically from our first daughter till now, progressively growing in our knowledge and understanding of how the body works and health, and even like things like this, like mental health, and how like some things that we can be doing, and it's just basically also supporting good mental health as well. So fast forward to whatever now, probably 2 to 4 months ago, the reason we weren't on here a ton, our family moved, had kind of a super busy, somewhat stressful transition time and stuff. I was, more concerned about, like doing things at the house and getting work done and this kind of stuff. And it's like whenever I needed to, like Alex already joked, my one workout in a month, because I definitely had a few months where it's like if I can't make it to the gym in the day, it's like, I wasn't able to make it there, that type of thing. And so essentially that has kind of just been compounding for, a good couple of months now. And to the point where about a week ago, I kind of got into this state that I basically felt. I was like, holy cow. I'm feeling something familiar now, and it's like that type of just lethargic, unmotivated, anxious, that type of feeling that like I recognized from these other seasons of life. And then I just kind of looked back at, some of my rhythms and patterns and things I've been doing over the past few months, and realizing all those things that I've already said, but then also just different spots that I'd been, compromising on, what we were eating, and like not, like being okay with eating this when we're, out at a social gathering or whatever, and just more than the normal, trying to, eat well, but also live a balanced and, realistic lifestyle. Yeah, to the point where like all that stuff just kind of compounded and got me back into that state of like essentially restlessness, and there's absolutely spiritual components to this, but like it's basically just the first time I'd felt that for a long time. And yeah, so I guess, today as it stands, it's kind of been, about a week since I realized some of that stuff, and, realized, okay, like, I am out of town working a lot, and it's, it's easy to, like, everybody else is, eating this. I'm not going to be a pain in the butt and have to, go get something else. But, just things like bringing food along when I have to go do something like that. Just this small little shifts that make up that, the normal small percentage that quickly grows when you are just a little flippant about things. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So, Doc, what do you have to say about stress and anxiety? I don't know. Where would you go with that?
Wow. Well, first, thanks for sharing all that. Yeah, it's interesting just how the body works, and I don't know if this is, I don't know if it's that I don't know enough, or if nobody knows enough to know, like, is it a genetic thing, or is it an epigenetic thing of why? So you go through kind of what you just laid out, and that brings you to, this kind of restlessness, anxiety, depression, those type of things. So that if there's a health issue, that's kind of where you are led to, or other people, that might lead them to like significant gut issue.
Sure.
Which is typically the case with me. Other people, they might just start getting colds and flus all the time, right? Joints might start to hurt.
I did forget to mention that. about a week ago, I woke up with like this, scratchy throat, and I'm like, oh crap. Like whenever I wake up like that, I'm like, okay, that's an instant like marker of what have I been eating.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think you hit on a lot of the things that I would say from, I guess, if I was going to help you, like if you were somebody coming in that would want to be coached by me and consult with me for your health, of course I would start with that history. Now, you laid out parts of your history there, right? Mm-hmm. So for what I got there is you have experienced something like this in the past, but this isn't necessarily something that you are like highly struggling with, that you are, this isn't like a monthly thing that you're dealing with, or this hasn't been happening for 5-10 years, something like that. Is that correct?
Correct. Sorry. We just got a comment on there. I was going to read it, but I'll wait. But yes, correct.
So why I'm saying that is because if it was I don't want to say a bigger deal, because of course this is a big deal, but if it was like a much more serious thing going on, then yes, I would probably dive into figuring out, what is the underlying cause. Of course, we know it. Some things have happened, but is there any like specific underlying cause that we would need to address? Mm-hmm. What systems have kind of been affected? Sounds like obviously with the anxiety and depression, some neurotransmitters and stuff have been affected, to where if I would need to design some sort of specific plan for you to address those things. But I don't necessarily I haven't heard that in what you've been describing. So to me, that just goes back to what this would be, where we would use that kind of environmental form of healthcare, but use it as a reactionary form of healthcare. So you're kind of in this state where you're experiencing symptoms.
Yeah.
But the answer isn't necessarily, well, let's do whatever we have to figure out how to get rid of those symptoms. These symptoms are a reminder that says, I haven't been paying attention to this environmental form of healthcare, right? Mm-hmm. I haven't been really doing what you admitted, a lot of the stuff that I know to do. So the number one thing that I guess I would say is remembering the philosophy, right? Remembering and trusting that our bodies have an amazing ability to get back to homeostasis and function well and heal, as long as we give it what it needs, stay away from what it doesn't.
Yeah.
So identifying, and maybe you have identified a lot of them, but maybe identifying specifically, okay, this is what's happened in the past, like you said, 4 months or so, that has led me to this path. So now what's the plan of attack? And this is where, of course, I would be able to help somebody with what's the plan of attack to make you the most successful to getting back to living that particular lifestyle.
Sure.
Right? It's not, man, I've been not eating right, I haven't been sleeping well, I haven't been exercising. Let's just go full bore. Maybe that's helpful for somebody. Let's just go full bore and do it all again.
Sure.
Right? That might just lead you to more stress and make you more sick.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of identifying, what is the most important? Is it not even the most important? I shouldn't even say that. Not the most important. The most important thing would be figuring out what's the main underlying cause of it, right? And your underlying cause might be, I just haven't been living the lifestyle. But what's going to be the most effective first, right? So is it, okay, especially as we're coming up on holiday time, maybe I'm not going to be able to do the whole eating well thing, right? I'm going to try. Of course, I'm not going to completely forget about that, but I'm going to work towards that. But that's not necessarily going to be my number one focus because I'm still going to have these parties, right? I'm still going to be going out for birthdays and all this different stuff.
Right.
So maybe it's sleep, which again for you might be difficult too because you have 3 kids. You get up at 4:30 in the morning to coach a class. Maybe it's figuring out how can I get some stress relief type exercise. If I can't go into the gym like I want to, what else can I do on the side to make sure that I'm, being able to get something in that's going to lead to healthy physiology.
Yeah.
Stress management, of course, is tough too because you have these jobs where it requires you to travel. So, I mean, I guess maybe what's helpful for the listeners is, so you're part of the show. Of course, you're promoting this type of lifestyle. You're promoting saying, if we just live this lifestyle, then we're going to be healthy. You're a good example of somebody who has that right mindset, who's even had a lot of experience living this way, but still can experience times when it's just you're not doing very well at that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But again, thankfully, we are given grace in that. And what I mean by that is our bodies don't just die immediately. Right.
Right.
We were just talking about somebody in the car ride over here about we just can't even believe.
Not understanding how they are still alive.
Exactly. We're like, how is this person not just dead right now? We say that lovingly, of course. But the body's just unbelievable, right? The body's fighting every single second of our day.
Yeah.
Even though we're putting it in this poor environment, it's saying, okay, how can I survive this particular environment in the best way possible so that I can get into a better environment and then I can thrive, right? So that's the number one key to somebody getting better is saying, okay, what's the environment that's keeping me in this unhealthy state? How can I now put myself in better environment? That might be involve all those things like I just mentioned, or it might just be picking some of them and saying, I'm going to slowly better my environment. That's how I'm going to get back to being healthy.
Yeah. So,
did I even answer your question? I've talked forever.
I didn't really ask a question, honestly. Brian, I knew you were talking about me. So, one of the first things you kind of said was how, like, if this maybe had been if this was a bigger deal than it sounds like, and it wasn't like more of an acute thing, it's hard to, it's something that's kind of hard to see in like hindsight, but I think it's probably, something that was going on that I just had no direct awareness of, earlier on, like, before, in the years prior to, like, starting this whole new health enlightenment, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So that's probably true, but yeah, as far as now, it's like this was like this acute thing that, like, I pretty much recognized right away when, like, it's funny though. So the heightened state of stress, like from the point where we knew we were going to be moving to, where we're at now, like still kind of sorting out new life in a new place. It's like that heightened stressful environment. And it's like, my personality, like I handle stress fairly well. Maybe already a given knowing that I wake up at 4 a.m. Like there's a fairly long period of time before I noticed any symptom, like sure, I might have noticed decreased performance on certain workouts, like on a certain day that I knew I didn't sleep enough the night before, or like little things like that. But like it was a number of months before I had this, like, reproducing this feeling that I was familiar with, But yeah, so that's another one of those, like, your symptoms aren't the whole story. But as far as what you're saying, like with like how to approach things and kind of like get back on track and like diving full in or whatever, over the past couple of days, it has been a pretty good realization for me, because in the midst of some of this stuff, it was actually kind of good for me mentally to like be okay, like missing a workout, because I think there's definitely been points where it's like almost idolatrous of like I gotta make it to the gym, or else I am gonna lose everything I've worked so hard for.
Yeah.
And like, judging performance at the gym, what we do is extremely competitive. And so during the past few months, like that actually has been something good for me mentally, to be able to like disconnect from some of those things that were probably somewhat of a driving force and not necessarily a beneficial one. But now it's like realizing, I don't just go to the gym to put a better time on the board,
Yeah.
like understanding everything that I certainly believe, but then realizing, okay, I probably pushed it a little too far,
Yeah.
And the same thing with like the eating stuff. So it's like you never want to be like in those situations. Like I was just in a couple days ago. We're working this job. They're taking us out for lunch. Going to this Mexican place. It's like I don't want to like. No, I'm okay. I don't need to eat. Which like I know, I understand that physically I would have been fine, but it's like you don't want to be that guy and look like a jerk.
Right.
So I figured out I can have them get me a salad. It's not going to be the greatest thing in the world, but it's like I'll be okay there, and just being able to still have that type of balance. But then like you said, holidays are coming up. Like I think it's a good time for me to just have a nice little reset of making the absolute best decisions I possibly can whenever I have control of it.
Yeah.
And that's going to put me in a good spot to be better, resilient in these other situations.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I heard you say there is if you are going into a season, I guess, where it's going to be high stress, like you got to, you're going to be working long hours, you have to be traveling.
Mm-hmm. It's like that's a variable that you like is gonna suffer. So it's kind of like you got to make up ground in these other spots.
Exactly. So again, hopefully you're not just going to go destroy your body for these next few months and during the holiday season. But there's going to be things that you wouldn't necessarily normally eat on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. You might be eating them on more of a regular basis. Like this is called restoring human, right? So I still feel like you're a human being that's going to do things that human beings do, right? Mm-hmm. What you kind of described is you're with these other people, so you don't want to just be this awkward guy that's doing the exact opposite of what other human beings are doing, right? So we're not telling you to do any of that stuff. We're saying still be a human being. Part of being a human being is relationships. So if that's going to do something to make the relationship weird, then definitely don't be doing that. But again, that's why it's amazing that we have, number one, the body that heals. So even if we go and eat at a Mexican restaurant and eat stuff we shouldn't be eating, then we can trust that as long as I get back on track and give the body what it needs and don't do that all the time, don't do the bad stuff all the time, then I'm going to get back to a good state. But then there's all these other variables, as you described it, that play into us actually being a healthy person. So yes, we have to, if we're going to be eating like that, then we have to make sure, okay, is my sleep on point? Am I exercising? Not because I just ate a big calorie meal and I need to go exercise to burn the calories off.
Right.
It's because exercise is part of having a healthy body. So I need to be doing that to just have all these other variables that contribute to a healthy body, because one of them is going to suffer right now. Which is why when I was describing how you would come out of that state is maybe it is just addressing one of them, because you have multiple ones, unfortunately, that are going to be suffering. So then I can't just let them all suffer, because then that's when I'm going to get really, really sick. And then I'm going to be falling into kind of that reactive form of healthcare. And what I've noticed is because people have done so much to their body and now they have all these symptoms, they get into this reaction form of healthcare and they don't want to be there. Like they would rather do things more naturally, right? If it's weight loss or if it's whatever it is, they want to do things the right way to get healthy. But they still are suffering so much that they kind of, I guess, give up on it too easy and just want to get rid of the symptoms, which I totally understand. And there might be a place for that. I shouldn't say might. There absolutely is a place for that. But we still can't get rid of having this understanding that if we start to do the right stuff, we're going to get back to where our bodies want us to be. That's what the body wants. The body wants to be functioning properly and healthy and live and thrive. We just have to give it we just have to stay out of the way, basically.
You said something in there that reminded me of another piece of this that I wanted to mention about how, like, the whole, working out after you ate whatever, not for the purpose of burning off those calories, but, like, moving towards homeostasis. So one thing that probably served me poorly over the past few months is I have a pretty solid understanding of like calorie balance and understanding weight management, even apart from nutrition and like health. And so, like, I always kind of have like a 5-pound range where I'm fluctuating, and there's probably been a few days where I've ventured slightly outside of that, but like I haven't really gained any weight over the past few months because probably harmfully, I understood like it's still fasted a good amount, and like my overall caloric load wasn't in a surplus, and didn't have like that kind of sign that would have showed me something's off.
Yeah.
And so removing actual nutrition, like what my body needs to thrive, and separating that out, and still kind of like balancing things out to the point where I'm not going to be gaining weight, really has worked against me, because it the lack of nutrition plus the digesting and processing of things that are harming me, got me to that bad point. Like,
right. Yeah. So, just because you're a healthy weight doesn't mean you're a healthy person. Is that what you're trying to say?
Right. Like there's like a 5-pound range, and I'm always pretty much between, for the past year or so. Step on the scale, I'm definitely still between that, and there's been a significant change in my health despite the scale.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. We want to still go with that, or what we want to do here?
We can go where we want. We got a lot of questions to get to here.
How do we read those?
I can just scroll back up here. Okay, so most recent one, Brian is asking, might be way off, so you don't agree with the cheat meal. Okay, I always like to treat myself once a week, usually on a Sunday. So, a cheat meal. Yes and no. So, I think what Brian essentially heard us say is don't have what people refer to as a cheat meal, where you're super strict with what you're eating for, 80%, 90% of your week, and then you've got this day or this meal on Sunday night or whatever where you kind of go to town. I would honestly say that we kind of are saying, whether it's something super regimented like that, or I think what we're more saying is those like cheat meals are going to happen in human life and in relationships, and are unavoidable without being weird.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of that idea, but like just approaching it differently than such a regimented.
Well, yeah, I guess I have maybe a couple things to say about this. This might be helpful or might not be, but specifically about the wording.
Yeah.
I don't like cheat meal because for me what that says is
you shouldn't be doing this.
I've committed to something, and now I'm going to get away from something that I've committed to.
Right.
I like to say vacation because this is the way I live. Just like this is what I do in my daily life, right? My daily rhythms look like this, and then I take a vacation. So I'm not doing anything that's wrong. I'm just getting away from my daily rhythms for a while. Yeah. That wording's been helpful for me and other people. I don't know if that's super helpful, but I just feel like, there's something that happens in our brain when we're saying, okay, I'm going to cheat right now. I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing.
Right, when it has a negative connotation.
Yeah. And maybe we've used that terminology too. Like I've said, you're doing something that you don't necessarily do. Maybe I did say you shouldn't be doing it. What I meant by you shouldn't be doing is that shouldn't be your daily rhythm, right? You shouldn't be doing that.
Right.
That's if you want health, right? If that's, if you don't necessarily care about health. I'm assuming if you listen to the show that I care about health. So we know what we should be doing, right? If we see it as a vacation, we're still doing what we should be doing, but this is just a different way of enjoying life, right?
Right.
I'm enjoying life by doing, like, feeding my body what I should be doing on a regular basis, but I'm also going to enjoy life by now, enjoying something else that we can celebrate with, right?
Right, because what I am saying is I don't want to be the jerk who won't go out to eat with these guys I'm like working with for the day, and like who are like who they were buying us lunch,
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna be the guy who's like, oh no, I don't want your crappy lunch. Like,
right.
I'm saying, yeah, don't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
So then the second thing I would say is like, if you're in a state where you're you're comfortable with where you're at health wise, like you don't have any serious things going on, you're not like trying to really work hard to lose weight, then I almost say that's a must. Like having something, whether it's once a week, even multiple times a week, where you're saying, hey, I'm going to enjoy something that is not necessarily nourishing for my body, right? Because again, something happens to us where even if we've developed a habit and developed a rhythm of eating in a certain way, if we are always kind of saying no to these type of things, especially when we're in those environments like you're talking about with other people, then that's just stress. That's stress to our bodies, which can be negative. So, my recommendation is to, like Brian said, have if Sunday. I like what he did is he has it scheduled, right?
Sure.
He's saying, I'm going to do this. I'm going to develop a rhythm where I'm eating healthy, but then I know on Sunday I'm going to enjoy something.
Sure.
Right? Instead of saying, I'm eating this way, and then, out of the blue, I'm just going to go eat something that I want. There's a tendency to kind of overdo that if that's how you're living.
Right.
But if it's scheduled like he's got, then I feel like that's the best way to do it. So, yeah, I would be in agreement with what you're saying there.
Yeah, I think the way that we have kind of gotten to it. So we used to do that. We used to have, Jill and I used to do like a Sunday night pizza night type of thing. And really we got away from that when my son, he really can't enjoy any type of pizza.
Yeah.
And it's going to be extremely harmful. And so that's kind of when we got away from doing that kind of thing, but then just kind of naturally fell into more of a rhythm where we are at a lot of, social gatherings weekly, multiple times a week.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're always trying to bring and provide something that is, nutritionally valuable. But like those types of situations have become more of like, okay, these are kind of our nights and our meals to go and enjoy and like partake in what's going on. And then like the decisions that we're making, like now, especially at home, like have to be like very much on point, or we know like much more severely negative health effects are going to happen specifically, with him. And so like I mentioned earlier, like we've kind of all just adopted that same type of thing.
Yeah, so hopefully that's kind of an explanation of maybe how we're different than, if you guys listen to other people, like when I started to really research health and get into paying attention to what people that were on the internet teaching, there's some people that like they would eat once a day and they would be walking around picking off leaves of a tree, and that's what they would eat. Or maybe have like some lime juice on some grass, and that's what they would eat, and they would explain why that was the best way to eat. And I'm not going to argue maybe that's you can make, again, maybe can make an argument that is what is nourishing for your body, but that's not normal, Like how many people are you going to interact with on a daily basis that are even going to come close to doing what you're doing there? Mm-hmm. So again, if somebody's in a really sick state, and they can get to that because it's absolutely necessary.
They might need some of those extremes.
Yeah, but daily basis, that stuff's that's not what we're trying to promote. We're trying to promote, again, getting back to the way people used to live. And that might be, as I'm saying it, I'm thinking like, that guy was extreme to me, but maybe what I talk about is extreme to other people.
Oh yeah.
That's another thing we wouldn't be teaching, right? We're not saying, hey, be like me. Be like Jarek. We're not saying that. We're saying, hey, if you want health, this is the best way to do things. And the only way to that's the best way to do things. But the only way for you to actually experience that is being able to do this, develop rhythms of life that look like that, right? It's not saying, oh, I'll do that for 30 days. And then I'll go back to living the way I want, or I'll do that half the time and then I'll live completely the standard American lifestyle and expect health. It's saying, well, hey, this is what I know is right. How can I work towards getting there as close to possible? Yep.
I have a funny. I'm gonna try to remember to come back to this. I have a funny little story. In line with what you're just saying. Okay, I gotta scroll up because there's so many people watching right now. Minimum dose. I think we might have missed something there from Tom. Okay. Here we go. Pretty timely for me to be tuning in on this. Curious about thought on seasonal depression and anxiety in hormonal changes after being done breastfeeding. Okay, so we got two kind of different things there. Seasonal depression, anxiety, as well as any hormonal changes after being done breastfeeding. Okay, so is it seasonal affective disorder? Is that the name there? So yes is a short answer there.
What is yes?
She's essentially asking, is that a thing? Is having a seasonal depression or anxiety, is that legitimate?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a kind of legitimate diagnosis, I believe. If you see psychological diagnosis as legitimate diagnosis,
touche.
But it's real what people experience.
Yeah.
How I would describe it is, again, there's back to the environment, right? So it's the environment contributing to, so our environments and our environment and our genetics, our environment and our epigenetics working together to then equal what's going to be our state of health. So whether we're expressing symptoms or we're not. So the environment would be change of season, right? A season that is not necessarily something you enjoy, but there already has to be some sort of internal state that also has to be there, which is why, some people don't experience that same sort of stuff in the same seasons. So there's internal, potentially genetic stuff, there's internal epigenetic stuff, there's internal just how well is your body working on the other variables, and then, of course, this environment of a change of season. That was kind of a complicated diagnosis or explanation of that.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess kind of a top level, more general look at that. The most common thing there is during the winter months, a lot of times people experience things that they don't experience any other time of the year. And from a super high level, we have far less, our context here in the Midwest, far less sunlight. We're not getting outside. We're not as active. We're not getting as much sunlight and vitamin D from the sun. And there's these factors that are very much contextual to winter time here in the Midwest. And so, yeah, for sure. There's actually a number of kind of topics within that we've kind of got on our roster of stuff we want to talk about. The vitamin D stuff, as well as just other supplemental stuff. But then
being outside,
well, yeah, for sure being outside. How we can eat differently in the winter months to, know that our environment is changing. So other things about our environment and what we're putting in our bodies can also change to help that, to assist that, to counteract that. We know we're going to be in this, I already said this once, we know we're going to be in this state where we're going to be deprived of something that's good for us. So on the other side, we need to counteract that and like be on our game to work against where we're lacking.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so to speak specifically to that seasonal affective disorder, I think it has just so much to do with just being outside and being in the sun. There's a lot of people think that that's solely due to vitamin D, which vitamin D is huge, extremely important nutrient. So many different things that happen in the body require vitamin D, but I just feel like it has to be much more than that. So it's not like you can just say, hey, I'm just going to supplement with vitamin D because I can't get out in the sun. There's something about being outside, actually being in the sun, that affects all of those other things, right? It affects our sleep. It affects how we process our food.
Yeah.
What type of foods are actually good for us at that particular time. All of those different things. So that is what I don't. Part of it's probably just like, man, I hate the cold. I don't like being inside all day long, just from a mental standpoint, emotional standpoint. But a lot of it's also physical. That's just not actually being out there. Maybe one of the things you were going to mention, of course, if we're not outside, we're inside, which means we're around all this stuff.
Right.
So receiving all those EMFs, which is another topic that we'll probably get to eventually. So, yeah.
Tangent. Do you know who Wim Hof is?
I don't think so.
The breathing guy, Iceman.
Nope.
No idea. Okay, we're gonna look at his stuff because I'm really interested. Basically, he's this dude who.
Isn't that Chuck Liddell, Iceman?
Oh, I have no idea.
Not a UFC guy.
Anyway, he basically puts himself in extremely cold environments and has this whole breath thing that he does. And anyway, we should maybe think around with it this winter. Cool. Where were you just at? Oh, her other question was regarding the hormones and breastfeeding, and I'm assuming around the same topic of kind of her mental state.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much I can comment on that. Number one, just not knowing enough about it, so I don't want to say anything that...
Alex has never breastfed.
I have not. But also, I don't know that I have enough of what she's necessarily experiencing to talk about it.
Sure.
I do know, yes, there is hormonal changes when you stop breastfeeding because there's hormones that have to be produced for you to produce milk. So if you are stopping breastfeeding, you're not going to be producing milk anymore, which means those hormones are going to be suppressed, right? They're going to be downregulated.
Mm-hmm.
So hormones don't just have one function, right? We don't just produce a hormone so that we can produce milk. That same hormone also does other things, and they're typically related, right? So like within breastfeeding, of course, we want to produce the milk for the baby, but we also want to connect relationally with that baby. So the same hormone, oxytocin, that's produced to be able to produce the milk is also the same hormone that allows us to develop intimate relationships. So we're going to be more relational, we're going to be more emotional, those type of things. We're going to be more tender, more loving. So, of course, if that gets suppressed as we're not breastfeeding, doesn't mean that we don't still have it, right? So it doesn't mean that that's going to completely go away. But as that change is happening, then there might be some of those type of symptoms. And again, I don't know enough about it to go much further than that, but
sure. Yeah. I think hormones are similar to the immune system, like we talked about last week, where everybody has probably spouted off something about hormones at one point in their life and really doesn't understand what hormones are. I think it's very similar to the immune system thing. I don't feel like I have a good grasp on what hormones even are, so that should definitely be on our list.
Just explaining hormones do and what they are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I feel good about that. I feel really good about answering those questions. Halloween is next week.
Mm-hmm.
How should we handle Halloween? Not how should we? what are some helpful ways to handle the holiday centered around candy?
For ourselves or for our kids or
both? Anything. Both?
Yeah. One way to do it would be to demonize it and say, I can't believe how people, what they are doing and how much they're eating, and, not participate, which that might be, again, depending on where you're at with your health or with, what you believe. That might be the case. That might be the best situation for you. Another one might be, I know this is coming, right? I know that I'm probably going to eat something that I don't eat all the time. And if I don't want that to result in me getting very sick, then I need to figure out how to minimize that, but also prepare my body for that, right? So living up to it, leading up to it, living in a way that now my body can actually deal with these type of things. For our kids, we've done it a couple different ways. We've done that first option that I talked about, where we just said, no, you're not going out trick-or-treating. Of course, we did something else special for them. We've done it to where they can actually experience it, dress up, go to house, get the candy. They can pick a certain number of candy that they want, pieces of candy that they want, and then they can trade it. So they give it to us. Not that we eat it, they give it to us. But then we give them something else, whether that's a toy or some other sort of food.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the two that we have done. It's probably gotten more and more every year that they actually eat that number of pieces of candy. And my oldest is 13. I have a 9-year-old, so they're way better, now at sneaking stuff than they ever were. So I'm sure they are actually.
Eat it as soon as they get away from the door.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess best practice would be having a plan, right? Not just going into the day and be like, oh, there's all this candy here. What should I do with it?
Yeah.
Especially with your kids, right? Because this gets into that, what you were talking about of going to lunch with people. You don't want to be the weirdo. Kids don't want to be the weirdo either. That don't get to eat candy.
That's even worse.
So, having a plan of, how am I going to prepare their bodies going into this? How am I going to, minimize what they are actually doing without, destroying their souls. But yeah, I think that's the best way to look at it, is actually having a plan with it. Yeah. Do adults eat a ton of candy on Halloween?
I think it's like one of the biggest excuses to eat all the candy.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
I feel like it's probably pretty normal. Like, even if you don't have a very high, like, even if you don't understand a ton about what's actually going to happen if you take in that much, like, refined sugar and all these other listed terrible things that are going to be happening, like, people don't want their kids to have a ton of candy, you know, like, whether it's sugar intake and kids being off the wall. Like, I feel like that's a pretty common thing that people, don't want to have happen.
Or teeth.
But then I think, I don't know, I would think that what ends up happening is the parents take it and eat it.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
This article here says 2013 data collected. Man, this is wild. Average child will eat about 3 cups of sugar on Halloween, which equals 384 grams. American Heart Association recommends daily no more than 25 grams, and they don't know what they're talking about. So that's should be way lower, right, of actually refined sugar, of course. 25 grams is still a lot, and the average kid eats 16 times that, almost 400 grams of sugar on that day. So, yeah, have a plan.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And what's always crazy about the again, back to just how amazing the body is. That's an average, so I know my kids don't eat that much. So that means there's kids that are eating 1,000 grams, most likely, and don't go into a coma.
Yeah. Yeah. I've already been thinking about this a little bit. We'll definitely, like I said, with our oldest, who actually kind of, is going to understand and has an opinion about eating candy, I know her tolerance is higher than our son. I know that, I'm not going to give him anything, so I'm going to be prepared with, something else.
Yeah.
Chocolate without sugar. I'm yeah, eat as much of that as you want, that type of thing. So, yeah, definitely be prepared. Cool. That was great.
Yeah.
I'm curious to close this down and look at what happened, because it seemed like there's a lot of people tuning in. I think I hope Rebecca's sitting out there pulled up watching us on her phone right now.
Doesn't sound like it.
Maybe not. I don't know. Cool. All right. Thank you, folks. Maybe it raised some questions live, so if you are listening after the fact, have some questions, comments, whatever, please let us hear it. If there's other stuff that you want us to talk about coming out of this, all the mess of stuff we talked about today.
Hold on real quick. I just thought of this. I think this is a good opportunity. Let's say you didn't listen to anything we said about Halloween, and you just let your kids do whatever they wanted. I think this is an opportunity to really pay attention and be aware of what happens to them.
Yeah.
From do their nose start running?
Yeah.
Does their nose start running the next day? Do they start to get a sinus infection in a week or two afterwards? Do they sleep terrible that night? Like you said, do they have, are they off the wall with energy?
Mm-hmm. For 10 minutes.
Yeah, these type of things. So hopefully just, again, be made aware of, if we're eating similar to this all the time, of course, good things or bad things are happening to the body. So
that's good. Do you guys hand out candy?
We do, because we do. We usually get together with people from our missional community, our church group, and all hand it out together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't know if you were like the dentist who hands out apples or.
Nope.
Actually, it's when I was growing up, there's obviously always the houses that gave out the full size candy bars that you made sure to go to that house. But then it's there was always an old lady who would hand out nickels and dimes.
Yeah. Popcorn balls.
I'd be okay
with. Always a good one.
Ooh, popcorn. There you go.
Or that's what we did last night for our icebreaker at MC last night. We said, what was your least favorite thing that you got on Halloween when you were a kid?
And they said popcorn?
No.
Oh.
We just said what was yours, and there were some good ones. I was just like, man, we just heard 15 terrible candies. What? How is there that many? How is there that many things of candy that's bad?
Man, that'd be a little bit of work, but a little bag of popcorn, that'd be. I would go for that. That'd be a lot of work, though. I guess it depends on how busy of a neighborhood you live in.
Yeah.
Sweet. Let us know what you like, what you want to know more about, whatever, all of the above. Get at us. Thanks for listening.
Adios.